Hey everybody, my name is Rob Nelson. You may know me from SageLight, maybe some other stuff on the internet. But right now what I want to do is I want to show Sagebox. And what I want to do is I want to show how you can create a Windows program really easily. And Sagebox can be used by beginners and hobbyists and professionals. I mean, that's kind of the tagline that I have up there and everything. But it's a pretty bold statement. And so what I want to do is I want to show this as kind of an introduction. All I'm going to do is I'm going to build this program, and it just moves a square when you move the mouse. That's it. That's the only thing. And then here is the basic program right here. A lot of comments, obviously, because this is checked in, and I'll put some links in the description about where it is on GitHub and everything. But you can see the actual code is very small. So what I want to do is I want to start from scratch, and I want to go ahead and just delete that and start a program just completely fresh. How you would start a console mode program or Windows program or any type of program where you use Sagebox. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to go ahead and include Sagebox, and you'll see it's already there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just do my main, and you can do a regular main or just an int main, doesn't really matter. So you've got your return 0, and then let me go ahead and just printf, like a hello world, since this is really kind of an introductory video, and compile it. Basically, you can see the hello world right there, and that's just your basic everyday C program. And so this is starting in life as a console mode program, and I'll show how we can move it to a Windows program very easily in just a minute. So now let me do kind of some of the canonical sort of Sagebox stuff, where you just say, you create your Sagebox object. And you don't have to create a window. You can just use some of the tools that are for console mode. But here I'm going to go ahead and create a window. And I'm just going to say, C1 equals C Sagebox.new window. And then compile it. And so when I run it, you'll see nothing really happens. It just ends. And the reason it ends is because it created a window, and because we're in a procedural mode, it just exited. So I'm going to do something called an exit button. There's various ways to do it, but exit button is nice. So what it'll do is it'll put a button at the bottom of the window, so it'll hold up the display so that we know that we're exiting. Or what we can do is we can we can just do regular console mode stuff. Press any key and then do does sketch work anymore? I don't know. Let's find out. Actually, I guess it's like get character now, old school basically. And so we can go ahead and do that and compile it. And so when we run it, you'll see that it has the window, and then since we're in a DOS mode, not DOS, but console mode, we can mix and match this the window, the graphics window with that, and we can do that. And then we press any key, and then we're done. And so let me go back to the exit button and show you one other thing real quick. It's not really going to be an issue here, but I want to show it anyway. So what we can do is we can actually set this as, it's in debug, it's optimized. So let's put it into Windows debug and then compile it. And when we run it, you'll see that it doesn't have a console mode window anymore. And the reason is because it's a pure Windows program now. And there are other projects you can set where you can establish your own Win main. But what this does is it establishes a Win main and then calls your main. And then you can, the great thing is you can use the console mode window as a debug and then just put it into Windows mode, and suddenly you've got a pure Windows program and none of the debug stuff goes out. So it's really kind of nice to be able to do that, to be able to develop a Windows program in console mode, or conversely use a console mode program that uses a lot of the Sagebox stuff to kind of help you out while you're programming stuff. But I'll do that in another video. But let me get to the main part of the video right now. So let's go ahead and leave the exit button there because we have to kind of get into what's called an event loop. Everything in Windows, anything you do with a GUI or UI is always going to be event driven. So you need events, and you need to wait for that one event that tells you that you're done with the program. And so doing this is no different in the sense that, when your program's done, it's done. And so when it exits this, your program's done. You can suspend this and go pure event driven. I'm going to show that in the next video, actually. And so, but what we can do right now is we can go ahead and clear the screen. It comes up as cleared, and so, but what I can do is I can say, hey, let's just clear it as red. And I can use an RGB value if I want to, but here I can just do red. Let's compile it. And when we run it, you see it does red. And then what I like to do, which you see in most of my videos, is I'll do a gradient. I'll do like black, and whatever. And so when we run that, it's kind of black to red. Whatever you want to do. And just to show that we can do it in RGB, we can also do there's black, and then there's red. And we can use our own variable names, and you can assign colors. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, but red, green, blue. And so that'll be the same things. Compile that. And you'll probably still just run it, and then so it's the same thing. And so you'll probably see that when you come up with, I'm sorry, hover the mouse over things, that it will show you how these functions work. So I'm going to mimic what I did in the program I showed you. There are these stock colors that we have. Sky blue dark, I think, is what I use, and then I went to sky blue light, I think, and so when we run that, we get kind of a nicer sort of, gradient, just nice blue. I tend to like the blues, so everything I do is blue mostly. And so now what we want to do is we want to draw a rectangle. And what I want to do is I want to draw the rectangle in the center of the screen, and then as an initial update. And then when you move the mouse with the mouse button down, I want to go ahead and move it. So let's get the size of the screen. So what I can do is I can just say size. In my stuff, I tend to use the kind of limited Hungarian notation. So and so what I can do is I can do get the window size. And this gets the internal size. If you give it a true, it'll get the size of the border, but this will just get that. And so now we have the size in there. And then what we can do is we can just simply draw a rectangle. My typing, man. Yeah, and so let's just do a radius of 100. I'm just going to hard code it. I normally wouldn't hard code it, but let's just say we're going to do a radius of 100, so we're going to do 200 wide. And so what I can do is I can just say, okay, let's go ahead and take the SC size dot. In fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something a little different. This is a size thing. And what I can do is I can do a SC size. I'll just do this for now. And then we're going to do is divide by 2 minus 100. And this will put it in the center of the window. And then 200 by 200. And then what I did is I said get color. It's not exactly the most efficient thing, but it's kind of nice for prototyping, because that way I don't have to worry about it. And so the red is the inside color and the white is the border. And I clearly forgot to divide it by 2. Here's the follow again. And so I can see, it's actually going white above there. And so I actually misspelled sky blue. And so let's compile that. And so there we go. That's kind of a nicer gradient, actually. And so I actually tried to move it, but I can't move it. And so there we have our nice rectangle in the middle of the screen. So that was pretty easy, right? So now what we want to do is we want to get the mouse. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into what's called the event loop. And we want to look for events. We can do this as a callback mechanism like Windows and other programs do. But in this particular case, with what Sagebox gives you in terms of functions and functionality, is I'm going to show you how to do it all procedurally. And then in the next video, I'm going to go ahead and do it in a more event-driven way and add functionality to it and buttons and that sort of thing. So let me go ahead and say, while I'm in a get event, and so what I can do is I can go get a get event. And I'm going to go ahead and I think I put this in a Windows mode. Let me go ahead and bring it back because I'm going to show you how we can use the console mode for debugging. And so I'm going to go ahead and do configuration manager. Did I do that right? Configuration manager. Let's go back to debug, which is just and so debug optimize it optimizes the code, but when you debug it, it's hard on the debugger. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where I'm going to print. It's called event num equals 0. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say every time we get an event, let's go ahead and print, because I want to show you how these events work. And so we're going to do that. And then I don't really need the exit button anymore, because the way get event works is that it will, I'm going to comment it out because I'm going to put it back in a while. Actually, I'll just leave it out. We don't need more. And so the thing there is that, so with get event, what happens is unless you turn it off, you can turn it off, but its default behavior is that it'll keep going until the window closes. And I'm going to show you that right now, right when I compile it. And so now we have this rectangle in the middle of the screen, but it's not really doing anything. But what you can see is, it's already done 200 plus events. And so every time the mouse moves, it's an event. There's a number of selected events that the get event will give you, and then you can turn some on and turn some off and say, hey, I want this event, I don't want that event. But by default, what it does is it gives you mouse moves, mouse clicks, buttons, sliders, any control. If you lose the capture and you have a capture and that sort of thing, more of an advanced thing that I'm going to show in the next video, actually. And so you can see that, and then I'm going to hold it still, but I'm going to click the mouse, watch. Now you'll see it's getting 2 events, but watch now, it just gets 1 and then 2. That's me pressing the button. I'm going to press the mouse button, and I'm going to let go of the mouse button. So what it's doing is it's giving an event that one is the mouse button up and one is the mouse button down. And so I can basically say, if and it works with events. I'm going to explain this a little bit in other videos, but what I can do is I can say if the mouse was clicked, and there's a way you can get the up process. So you can say printf mouse clicked, and my keyboard's a little off center because of the microphone. So, and then what we'll see is that when we run it, you see I have that, but then I'm going to click the mouse. So you can see it's clicking the mouse, and then when I let go, it gets the up click, and you can get that too, as the mouse up, that sort of thing. And then what I can do is I can do this, is I can say, okay, what I want is I want to know where the mouse was clicked. So what I can do is I can put a point there, and then all I have to do is put the point in there, and then x equal %d and y equal %d, and then what we can do is we can do pmouse.x and pmouse.y. Compile that. And the nice thing is that, so now when I click it, it tells me where I clicked it. And the nice thing is it won't fill the pmouse variable that I put into the pointer unless it's clicked. It doesn't fill it automatically. So you can have an old value in there, and it'll only update that when mouse clicked is true. And so it's just a really nice way to do things. I'm about to use that right now when we move the mouse. So now what I want to do is I want to go, if the mouse was moved, and we're going to go ahead and keep the pmouse there. And if the mouse is down, we want to make sure the mouse is down because, and you can see that it tells you what to do. So you can see if the mouse is down, if the right button is down. And so we only want this when the mouse is moved and the button is down. And then what we want to do is we want to draw the rectangle. And I'm going to clean this code up in just a minute. To make a little refactoring so we don't have to draw the rectangle twice. I just don't really like duplicated code, so we'll take care of that in a second. So instead of the win size, all I have to do is put in the mouse in there, and and then it's X instead of, because size versus point, it's just the way it is. Size and point, if you're not familiar with them, actually it doesn't even show them, but this is a size, and a point are all Windows structures that are ubiquitous. So you see them once, you'll see them again. And so I did something wrong before. I put it in the center, so now I need to just test around and realize I made a mistake there. So now when I run it, it prints the rectangle, but I really want to clear the screen. Now I'm going to do something that is kind of inefficient, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we can do so much now is that a lot of this stuff just doesn't really matter. You might notice I'm not even updating the screen. It does it automatically. Once you get to a certain point, you're going to want to do it yourself. But for this sort of stuff and just playing around, most of the time you can just let it update it on its own. So what I can do is I can do c1.cls. Now remember I have a gradient. And it's going to remember that gradient. And I can put a bitmap up there, and it'll remember the bitmap. And so now when I do it, I've got exactly the same program that I showed you in the beginning of the video. But now watch what happens is, because I want to show this in the next video, where what I do is I have, see when I get to the edges, it stops. There's a way to handle that in Windows, and it gets it's not, I wouldn't call it advanced, but it's just something that you just, once you know about it, it's very useful. It's called capturing the mouse. And let me do a couple other things on this. Let me go ahead and put a title on it. So when you do Sagebox, you can say, put this and put mouse program. And then if we want, when we're done, we can even say C1 dots. It's called dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue functions where you can, I just don't have that commented yet, so that's something I'm going to do right after this. So, but I can just put in a title that basically says program finished, and then press OK to continue. And so there's a lot of functions where you can do that, and you can get input, and you can do a whole lot of things. So one thing to keep in mind about Windows programs is that they're not tricky as much as there are a few concepts that you need to know about. And one of them is that when you close the window, it's closing the program down. So the info says, hey, I am closing the program down, I don't know where I'm at. I don't want to use resources. I don't want to get deconstructed right in the middle of things because I've got this thing, and that's what that does. Now, there's a few things we can do. What we can do is we can say, you know what, I don't want to close the window. So you can go no close here, or what you can do is you can say cwin dots. In fact, here, let me show that, just a couple things to end the video. So I can disable the close. Now, the problem is I won't be able to get out. And let me show you what I really love about console mode, right? Because watch, I'm not going to be able to get out. See, I can move this around, but now when I click it, I can't get out. You know, in a Windows program, I got to go to the task manager. I got to, you know, find it. I got to get rid of it. Here, I can just press Control C. That's why I develop in console mode, even if I'm going to move it to Windows later, because you've got a rogue process. I'm going to do a whole video about this, but you've got a rogue process, and you know, you just get out of it very quickly. And so the way we can do it is that we can say, okay, we're in our get event, and what it'll do is it'll tell me that the close button was pressed. And so these are called events, and what you can do is you can also do events for any event. And so if you're thinking, okay, what event do I want, just do event dot and it'll give you a list of events, and it'll give you all the descriptions for everything. And so, you know, the shorthand is, once you get used to it, just close button press, and then and not close button press. So now it'll get, since it's not going to fall through anymore, I can say, hey, if the close button is pressed, let's go ahead, and then let me go ahead and run it, and then so I can move that around. So now when I press it, it'll give me my dialog. And so there's another thing we can do too, so we can avoid all of that. Get rid of the disable close, get rid of the close button press. And so this kind of shows how extensive Sagebox is. It's really, you know, fitting a lot of the beginning, middle level, and advanced stuff all at once with a pretty carefully crafted paradigm, actually. And so what I can do is I can say reset window closing, and so what that'll do is that says, okay, I know about the window close, just get rid of it. And so now I can, with one line, I was able to just reset it, and then it resets it again when on the way out. So anyway, so that's basically it for this program. It's a very small program, and it shows how we can do a whole lot with Sagebox. And as we decide we want to do things like the info window and everything, there are a whole lot of things that we can do. And you can see that I was able to make it a console mode program, which really has a lot of use. In fact, I'm still printing the events, even though I didn't really mean to here. And watch this, if I change it back to a Windows program, this is what I really like about it. Let's do Windows debug and compile it. So now the Windows mode, the console window is gone. This is a full-blown Windows program. It has my title and everything, and we're done. And so, and this kind of gives us an indication that we're out. And so the idea is that you can do a whole lot with this, with just a little bit. And you'll see there's not one event callback, not one overload in the whole program. But in the next program, I'm going to get a little more crafty with it, and then start to move it over to something just to show how we can get more advanced with it.